We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. It is Saturday, and we have a special guest on the program today. This is a gentleman who's never been on the show before. His name is Dan. He's from Kalamazoo. And Dan, thanks for joining us on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Dan, I'm curious. You said you saw me in my live, and that's what got you to reach out and be on the podcast. Did you know anything about this Rational Boomer stuff prior to that live?
Actually, I've seen. I watch independent media. I watch corporate media because I like to get the two sides of every story.
Right.
But when you
did you see me? Did you see me before the live? Did you know anything about Rational Boomer before the live you saw?
Well, I watched you.
Okay.
But when you told MAGA Republicans to dumb fucks, as you call them, to come on the show, my email so and so, rationalboomer@gmail.com. I'll debate you all you want. I get a kick out of it. I said, oh, hell yeah, I got to email this guy and see if he'll have me.
Well, and, the only reason I asked you that is because I wasn't trying to put you on the spot there. Whether you watched what I do or not doesn't really make a difference. I just wanted you to understand what you're getting into. I'm a guy that swears a bit. So I want to make sure you're not shocked by anything I might say.
Oh, hell no. I swear too. I try to contain it, but no, I don't. I don't mind.
You may have noticed I don't try to curtail it. So, much to the chagrin of a lot of folks that listen and people in my family, don't swear so much. Fuck you. But now, when you sent me the email and you said it was from the live, and you said you kind of had you were essentially a Republican, but back in the old days, the Reagan Republican, and you didn't have any ownership to what's going on with Donald Trump. So you weren't coming on here to debate me about Donald Trump or anything like that. You're somebody of a reasonable mind that's not a fan of Donald Trump, correct?
I wasn't a fan of Donald Trump back in 2016 when he descended that staircase, that escalator in Trump Tower.
Right.
I knew exactly who he was. They say the eyes are the window to the human soul.
Right.
I knew exactly who he was.
It looks like if you look into his eyes, it looks like he doesn't have a soul. So that's a red flag.
This lifelessness there. You have to understand, the Bible says, and I'm paraphrasing this because I've been read the Bible since I was in my 20s.
Okay.
And I'm 48 now.
Okay.
It says it's easier for the needle.
Yeah, it's easier for a camel. It's easier for a camel to get through the eye of a needle as opposed to a rich man to heaven. Right.
Yeah, exactly. If you ask Donald Trump about that, he couldn't, it's like when Donald Trump said, they asked Donald Trump, what's your favorite verse of the Bible? He couldn't even say the most easiest verse, the one that they even, the banners at all the baseball games, John 3:16,
right,
for God so loved the world that, he He gave his only begotten son, and he's like, oh, it's very personal to me.
He,
That's bullshit. I'm
he,
sorry to
he
say.
could, no, feel free to swear. He could have at least come up with Stone Cold 316 means I'm going to whoop your ass. At least he could have remembered that, but he didn't even grasp that one.
You know, I mean, there's just so many things wrong with Donald Trump. I mean, it's like these immigrants that he had a beef with. Hell, his wife is an immigrant,
Both of his wives
Melania,
and Ivanka or
huh?
Ivana Trump was an immigrant too. The dead one, the one he buried in his golf course that he divorced. He's got two wives that were immigrants,
I knew,
and
I know, I didn't know about she was an immigrant. I just know about Melania. I didn't know Ivana was an immigrant.
well, see, the thing about Donald Trump, it's not that he hates immigrants or likes immigrants. He just jumps on board with any belief that's going to benefit him, either with money or power or votes or whatever. That's why I've always said Donald Trump is not necessarily, well, at least didn't start out to be evil. He's just a willful idiot. The evil people knew they could use him as a puppet, and that's what they did. They pat him on the back, tell him he's a great guy, and he'll do whatever they tell him to do. And that's what Vladimir Putin has done to him. That's what the evil people in the Republican Party have done. And then he went so far down the rabbit hole, now he's as bad as they are.
Well, you know, that's exactly, it's like these words that he spouts off:
Right.
fascism, socialism, Marxist. I don't think he knows what those words actually mean.
I don't either. I don't think most of the Republicans know. They spew socialism and communism and fascism, and I don't think they identify them as anything different. They think they're synonyms. They're all the same, and they're not.
You know, I mean, that's basic high school politics. American government make that very one of those words.
Right. You took that in civics class in ninth grade, maybe, and I don't know that Donald Trump was paying attention to much in ninth grade. As much as he
I don't
says
think
he
he
was
was
good in
paying
school.
attention in junior high much in junior
Right.
high.
Right. Now you said you're Republican in the sense of back in the Ronald Reagan days and henceforth. I'll tell you this: in spite of my stance now, in 1980, I was 20 years old, and the first vote I ever made for president was for Ronald Reagan, mainly because I was 20 and I didn't know fuck all about fuck all. Um, a lot of people look back to the Reagan days as the good old days of the Republican Party. Do you feel that way?
I believe Ronald Reagan was the heart of the Republican Party.
And what do you feel that is? Because I question the Republican Party from even back then. I don't think the Republican Party exists anymore. They bear no resemblance to what the Republican Party once was, and I struggle with the fact whether they were good back then even.
I think they were good. I think Ronald Reagan kept them good and decent. I think when he died, that's when they started to fall apart.
Yeah. I I sometimes think that Reagan may have been the start of the demise of the Republican Party. I mean, Reagan was all about the trickle down theory, which we know after 45 years has never worked. You know, taking
Well,
money
no,
out of Social
if you
Security.
want to go back further, it might have started with Nixon.
Yeah, yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, you could actually blame this whole thing on Nixon.
I don't know if you can blame it all on Nixon, but you can blame a lot on Nixon. I mean, the Republican Party just has a totally different mindset than the Democratic Party. And don't get me wrong, I'm not rah rah for the Democratic Party. I know they have problems too. I tell people I'm not Democrat or Republican. I pretty much understand that it's not Democrats versus Republicans, it's us versus them. These people get power, they get put in elite positions, they can make money, and they'll take it out of our skin if they can benefit from it. And that's the one thing we've got to change in this, whether you're Republican or Democrat. Um, we the middle class in the United States has been put upon since before Nixon, and both parties have some culpability in it.
Now, if I might hypothesize here,
Sure.
if I may, if I was running as a candidate for 2024,
Yeah.
as a Republican, what I do is leadership begins at the top. What I do is to bridge the gap, is pick a running mate as a Democrat
All right.
to show that Democrats and Republicans can work together.
No, that would be the wise thing to do, but you understand right now with the Republican Party, that could never happen. Even if somebody wanted to do that, they would be crucified inside the Republican Party to even bend toward the Democrats. And that's the ultimate problem here in Congress. Congress is there to compromise and negotiate, and there is none. So in essence, Congress isn't working, it's failing.
That's what we need to do. We need to see. Let's see how. Let me before my notes for a minute here.
Dan, don't worry about your notes. Let's just talk. Don't worry about your notes. Let's just talk. You have thoughts. Just don't just feel comfortable and say what you think. That's what this is about. This isn't an interview. This is just you and I talking, a couple of guys.
I don't want to make myself sound like an idiot. That's the whole point for notes.
Don't
because I have, Congress. Right now, the way the Republicans are,
yeah,
is they want to cut Social Security.
Right.
But the way it stands is, if the Republicans start making the wealthy pay, see, right now the wealthy only pay 1% of Social Security,
right,
while the lower class pay 100%.
Right. Right.
And if they start taxing everyone over 200,000 who made $200,000,
right,
it would, Social Security won't run out. Right now, Social Security is going to run out over, the way it stands is Social Security will run out in 2033.
Dan, you know what? I've been hearing that since I was 20 years old. They told me you'll never get Social Security because it will run out. The fact of the matter is the government's got to get behind Social Security. If they decide to shut that down, that would be the death knell of any party that ever does it. It affects too many people. It affects the economy. And much like anything else that they have to bail out, if that ever comes to pass, the government will bail it out because they have to. This is where the media comes in and the government comes in and tries to instill fear into you. Oh, we're running out of oil by 2000. Oh, Social Security is going to be run out by 2033. This is the one thing I tell people. Don't believe everything you hear. Some of it is intended just to scare you. And if you look at the facts, they can't let Social Security go by the wayside. That's why I don't know why the Republicans keep spewing it. It's just absolutely stupid. It would kill their party worse than it's already been killed.
Mm. I'm also, as a Republican, I'm also a big advocate for Medicare for all.
Oh, I'm Medicare and health care for all. Hell, I'm for
Yeah,
free college too. We've got an epidemic of stupid in this country. We need to get some money behind it and get some educated people back in this country.
yeah, exactly. That's why Trump said in 2016 when he won the Nevada presidential caucuses,
Right.
he said he loves the poorly educated
Right.
because, you know, that's his whole fan base.
Well, it's a whole fan base for the Republican Party. You got two options in the Republican Party. You got the very wealthy because they cater to them, or the very stupid because they will believe anything they're told in spite of the fact that it works against them. And that's the two demographics that the Republicans deal with. And that's why they've had any success in the last 50 years. They appeal to the people on the lower level saying, "Oh, those brown people are going to get you," or um, Democrats crash the economy. Well, the fact of the matter is the Democrats don't crash the economy. The Republicans do. The Democrats um, typically clean it up. You know, it happened with George W. Bush. It happened with Donald Trump. It happened previous to that as well. Uh, that's the big problem in this
Yeah.
country. The information that's coming out to us isn't always accurate. They're not telling us the truth, and we have to be wary of that and be able to be motivated enough to get the real truth.
Yeah, but people won't bother looking at the, information or data, or they just believe what corporate media tells them.
Right, right,
That's why I look at independent media as well,
right.
because, you know,
I mean,
um,
you look at the independents out here, whether it be somebody like me on TikTok, you have to scrutinize them too, because everybody seems to have an agenda. My agenda is try to get as much information, accurate information out as possible. I'm not looking to get famous. I'm not looking to get rich. That's not the point. I'm looking to have a better country for my granddaughter when she grows up. That's my goal. And I think that's the goal of a lot of folks of my generation. You know, they see the end of life coming in the next 20 years and they don't want to leave this place worse than they found it.
no, I, I've never been married. I don't have any kids.
Okay.
I, I'm on this disability right now because my kidneys failed.
Okay.
Uh, and I have Medicaid. Medicaid.
Okay.
I'll tell you, Medicaid sucks.
Yeah, I can understand that. You know, it's a government program and we've got people trying to um, bridle any kind of benefit the people of this country get. They aren't going to give you everything you should have. They're going to give you just enough to get by. And that's what sucks about our government at this point.
I mean, I want better life. I mean, I, I'm right now going back to school to try to get my bachelor's degree. It's
Okay.
online because I want something more for my life than just being on disability.
Right.
I just turned 48, you know. I mean, my
Well, it's
license was revoked because of my health issues.
right.
I want something more than what I have.
Well,
You
that
can't blame me for that.
no, no, not at all. Not at all. You know, that's one of the things I've said all along. We keep getting the Republicans tell us, oh, we can't afford anything for the middle class or the people in need, but we sure can give $2 trillion a tax break to a bunch of people who don't pay taxes. That makes no damn sense. When a Republican tells me somebody just wants a free ride, or somebody doesn't want to work, that's not always the case. You know, people in the middle class pay taxes too. In fact, they pay the bulk of the taxes that help run this country. And being a capitalist and having been in business myself, if I'm paying into something, I expect something in return. If I'm paying into a government who's supposed to take care of us, I expect that to happen. And that's one of the problems we have now. Our government isn't taking care of us commensurate with the amount of money we pay them, and the requirements of their job descriptions to deal with us. We need them to do their job better, and we need to get more value for the taxes we pay.
You know, another thing that really irks me about the Republican Party is and this is what is the Second Amendment.
Right.
They don't read it clear.
No.
And this is where our founding fathers kind of screwed up. It says if you read the Second Amendment, if you read the Second Amendment all the way through, it says a well-related militia.
Right.
And
Excuse me.
if you know what militia is, it's a military force that is raised from the civil population in case of an emergency.
Right. Right.
Okay. Be necessary for the security of a free state. That's where they should have ended it.
Right.
But they had to continue with the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Right. They pick and choose certain phrases
That's
in that Second Amendment, and shall not be infringed is the only one they pay attention to. The well-regulated militia, they ignore. And that's the problem with not only Republicans, but religious folks. They pick and choose, they cherry pick out of the Constitution, out of the Bible, something that puts across their agenda, and then they pervert it to make it fit better with what they want. If somebody's screaming about the Second Amendment and saying I can have any amount of guns I want and do whatever I want, you clearly don't know how to fucking read, because that's not what the Second Amendment says.
It's like Trump. It's like the First Amendment applies to him, but the 14th Amendment doesn't apply to him.
Right.
He doesn't have the right to a public constitution as president. What kind of bullshit is that?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I heard somebody talking about the testimony given by Don Jr. and Eric Trump, and they basically said, I don't know anything about anything, which is absolutely ridiculous. And so, because of that, people are saying, are these people just stupid, or is this some kind of intricate strategy? I think people give Donald Trump, the Trumps, even the Republicans for that matter, much too much credit. There is no strategy. They're flailing now. They're just pulling shit out of their ass, and like monkeys throwing it against the glass. They're trying anything. There is no strategy here. There's no plan. There's nothing intellectual going on. It's all emotion, and it's all reactionary. And Donald Trump is the essence of that. That's all he does, is he reacts, and he's emotional about things, and that's why he's always wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You said you're on disability, right?
Uh-huh.
You're on
SSI.
you're on disability. Do you feel like the U.S. government is taking care of you to the level you should be taken care of, given what this country is about, or do you have issues with the government not doing enough for people that have disability? I mean, I'm relatively healthy right now, but any one of us could be put on disability for any one thing. I'm 63. I could fall down the steps tomorrow and something would happen. So we all have to think about it. But as somebody who's on disability now, do you feel like the government is doing everything it should be doing for you?
To be honest,
I'm sorry?
no,
Okay.
they could do more.
And what more do you think they
Um,
should do? I'm not going to argue with you about this. I'm curious because I agree with you.
well, for instance, that Medicaid is useless. I'd rather be on Medicare.
Right.
Um, but uh, I think there are, like I said, I've gone back to school.
Right.
You know, in in Europe right now, regardless of the war in Israel, in Europe,
Mm-hmm.
they do more for their disabled and health and poverty stricken and elderly than we do over here. We are the number one country with more uh, infant deaths than any other country in the world.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think we are so lacking in that area when the rest of the world is doing fine and doing more? Why are we doing less?
Because we have a government that's divided amongst themselves.
Right.
We got what's wrong with your chin? You hurt yourself? I'm sorry.
No.
Um,
Why do you think? I'll tell you why I think it is. I think it is because the
it's
government is in the
because
pockets of the big lobbies for pharmacy, for medical, and it's better for our government officials to cater to those people and keep the prices high and keep us paying money um, than it is to help us. And therein lies the problem with this country. They are more concerned with helping their rich people because they in turn give them money and fuck us. And that's why you're dealing with what you're dealing with Medicaid, and a lot of people are dealing with healthcare in general.
yeah, because yeah, we we need it. It's time that we stop fighting. It's time that the Republicans and Democrats stop fighting. It's time that we get our corporate donors out of politics and we come together and as one in unity and sit down and start talking about a real plan.
But the question is, how do we do that? I mean, we've got at least one side in the Republicans that refuse anything like that. You know, everything they think about is going against the middle class. They don't want to negotiate and compromise with the Democrats. They don't want to do anything. The only the only thing I can see happening that's going to work is that when 2024 comes, and hopefully there's a blue wave and we eradicate all these fucks out of the Congress, and then they have to sit back and go, well, we got to change our strategy because we failed big time. I only see that as the possibility to getting us back to some more unity in this country.
Unless there was a real leader in office who they looked up to, unless we actually had a real leader for once.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have any real leadership. The president is supposed to be a real leader.
Yeah, he's supposed to be a real leader, and at the same time, a
And
president.
we haven't had a real leader in the office in a very long time.
I agree. We haven't had well, honestly, I have some positive things and some negative things about Obama. I thought Obama was a good leader, but I think he could have got more done. But you can't really blame him because, again, we have this adversarial thing in Congress. Republicans did everything they could to shut Obama down. Democrats tried to balance it out. See, that's the problem, is we got people working against us. We've got to get that done with before we can even come close to getting any unity. And we need a different culture in our Congress, because it's fucked up. It's a mess. It's not working.
That's why we need to reform. I don't want to say abolish. We need to reform Congress.
I think you're right. I don't know how we do that, because the unfortunate thing is, if we want to change anything in Congress, whether it be term limits or age limits or anything like that, Congress has to agree to it. Congress has to vote for it, and they're not going to do something that hurts them. So we got to find another way to get it done.
It's like the same thing with my it's like the same thing with the Supreme Court. We've got to reform the Supreme Court.
Right.
The Congress has to impose term limits with Supreme Court judges. Every judge, before they take the bench, has to take a code of ethics, except Supreme Court judges.
Right.
Well, it's time that Supreme Court judges do the same thing.
I agree. I think that's something they have to look at, but we can't even think of doing that until 2024, assuming the Democrats take control, because the Republicans will never allow it. And so it's a catch-22. If the Republicans are there, they're going to shut down every effort to do anything to repair the problems in this country, because they are the source of most of our problems these days. Not all of them, but of most of them. Dan, we're going to take
Don't even get me started on Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Well, we'll talk about that. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we come back, if Marjorie Taylor Greene is going to get you fired up, let's talk about her.
She's one. I mean, I love her accent, but she's a wackadoodle.
Yeah, she is a wackadoodle. There is no question about it. I tell you what, we'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
All right, sure. I'll see you.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. On this show, we have Dan, who's from Kalamazoo, Michigan. And we're talking about a number of different things that are going on in this country. And Dan comes to this from an interesting perspective. He's a man, you say, of 48. You're 48 years old.
I just turned 48 in last month.
Well, happy birthday. You're a younger man than I am. And I barely remember being 48 because I'm 63. But he lives in Michigan, and Michigan's one of these swing states. Biden won Michigan last time around, but we know Michigan is highly sought after by the Republicans. I was talking about the culture of our Congress, and you mentioned somebody as we were coming to the break. You mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene, and it seemed like you had an opinion about her. What are your thoughts on Marjorie Taylor Greene?
Well, I love her accent, but she is really weird.
Well, she's fucking nuts. I mean, she and she
That's
and she,
one way of putting it,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, and she's not very bright. She's not a bright
No, she's
woman.
not. I was under the impression that in order to be a congresswoman or in Congress, you had to have a higher education. But apparently, I didn't, she only has a GED from what I hear.
No, that was Lauren Boebert. Actually, Marjorie Taylor Greene does have a college degree. I can't remember from where. Lauren Boebert is an even bigger idiot because she has her GED. Not that having a GED is a bad thing, but all you have to do is listen to Lauren Boebert to realize she's an idiot. But Marjorie Taylor Greene does have a college degree, and and one of the things I found out in my long life is that just because you have a college degree doesn't mean you're smart. Because I know some college people with college degrees that don't know shit about shit.
Uh, I don't have a college degree yet. I'm hoping to rectify that.
Okay.
Um, but I don't want to say that I'm smart. I like to think I am, but doesn't mean I come across that way.
Well, I like to think I'm smart too, but there are some people that would argue the point. Some people think I am, some people think I'm not. But it doesn't matter what other people think. We know what we know, and we feel what we feel. We were talking about the culture of Congress. When I think back to my younger days, you always imagine somebody in the House of Representatives of having some intellect, having some critical thinking ability, but it really seems like we've got a lot of wacky fucks in the House of Representatives. They've always been a little lesser than the people in the Senate, but these days it's like anybody can get a fucking job there.
Yeah, that's one thing I don't understand. Um, maybe it's time that we stop looking at people with higher educations and start hiring people, or not hiring, electing people who've actually know who actually have come from the people to
Right.
represent the people.
Well, that's how it was. That's how it was intended when the forefathers put this plan together. It was never intended to be you go to Congress for your career, you sit there for 30 or 40 years and you make all kinds of money. It was really intended for people to serve the country, much like going into the military. You're a farmer. Okay, I'm going to be a representative for 2 or 4 years, and then I'm going to go back to what I was doing. We got away from that because there was too much money involved and nobody wanted to fucking leave. So we get these people that build up power and power, and then they don't want to leave. And that's what perverts the entire culture of politics and the House of Representatives specifically, the Senate too, of course, but more so the House of Representatives. We do need to get back to a more of a service culture in Congress because that's really what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. Trump claims he can stop, and I don't know if I'm using a quote right, but the war, like he's the only one that can.
You're talking about the Israeli-Hamas war. Well, he does that all the time. I can
Yeah,
stop the Ukraine war in 24 hours. I can stop the Israeli war. And his attitude is, you have to understand why he thinks that or why he says that. I don't even know that he thinks that, because he thinks he can walk into Benjamin Netanyahu or Vladimir Putin and say, "We're America. If you don't stop this, we're going to bomb the shit out of you." That's exactly what he's thinking. And unfortunately, diplomacy doesn't work that way, and Donald Trump just hasn't grasped it.
no, I don't even think he knows what America stands for, to be honest with you.
No.
I don't think he can comprehend it. You know, if he can say that, well, Vladimir Putin's a very smart, very smart guy. He's very powerful, and he loves Kim Kong Jing or whatever the hell his name is.
Kim Jong Un, yeah, yeah.
You know, that's not normal behavior for a leader.
Now, the thing about it is, some people will say Donald Trump is racist or he's anti-Semitic, and I think to a certain extent that's true. But what you have to understand about Donald Trump and his mental state, he is a narcissist. So it's not that he hates Jews or he hates black people or he hates brown people. He doesn't think anybody, white, black, Jewish, whatever, he doesn't think anybody is better than him or equal to him. See, that's the thing. It's not so much racism. It's that Donald Trump has got this convoluted thought that he's above everybody else, that he's the most powerful, he's the strongest, he's the smartest, and he's the richest. So everybody around him are fucking serfs. So that's why when these people don't bow to him and do his bidding, then they become enemies. Donald Trump is not racist as much as he's a narcissist and everybody else is shit compared to him. That's how his mind works.
Well, that's true to a certain extent. You see, I knew that back in 2016 because I knew who Trump was. I don't know him personally, but I knew the type of person he was.
Right.
You see, we can smell our own. And when I look at Trump, coming from someone who's never had power,
Right.
and if I ever had that kind of power that he had, I knew I would do everything in my power to hang on to it.
Right.
And he's had that power all his life. And I knew that he would never let it go if he obtained it.
Right.
So that's how I knew what he was capable of.
The worst part of that is his power, his perceived power was all a fraud. He wasn't really a billionaire. He isn't really smart. He isn't really powerful. He did what a lot of bullies do. He 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 puffs up and says the things, and there are certain people that will push back, and other people that will just fold up and say, "Oh yeah, he must be strong because he said he was." That's the problem. A lot of people were pulled into the bullshit, and there's a lot of people that still believe the bullshit. That's the thing that amazes me. After we've seen all we've seen and heard what we've heard, they still think he's the greatest guy in the world. That's almost an illness.
You know, that doesn't make any sense. Some of these people that are on TV buying his fucking merchandise,
Right.
they can barely make ends meet, and they'll spend millions of dollars on his fucking merchandise.
Right. Well, see that.
What's more important, a necessity or a fucking t-shirt with his mug that says never surrender? But emotion means you surrendered. You lose your fucking head.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's the thing is we've got a lot of followers in this country, and they look for somebody who they perceive as strong and is fighting for them, and they get right behind them. I think there's a lot of people in this country that think the government is not being fair or coming after them. And so when they see somebody like Donald Trump who says, "Hey, I'll be your huckleberry, I'll fight for you," they believe it. And even though he never does, they're hoping against hope that at some point he will. And it's sad that people have been taken in by this.
Yeah, Trump says he's a man of the people and that people look at him as living the American dream. He's not living the American dream. That's his daddy's money.
Right, right. He's
not self-made.
That's what I'm saying is everything that gave him power, everything that he brags about is not of his doing. He's co-opted his dad's money and his dad's image. He bullshitted his way through, and it truly amazing. I mean, I've known people when I was growing up that bullshitted their way through into jobs and stuff like that. I've never seen anybody who was able to do it as long as Donald Trump has. He's been doing it for 50 fucking years, and people keep falling for it. I just don't understand what these people are thinking.
According to Mary Trump's book, right. And I don't know how accurate this is, but from what I heard, according to Mary Trump's book, Donald Trump, when he was attending the University of Pennsylvania, he paid another student to do all his work.
Right.
He was going to fail until his daddy intervened.
Right.
And paid the college to let Trump graduate.
Right. Well, does that surprise you at all, knowing what you know about Donald Trump?
No, not really, because it just shows me the nepotism there. And what happens if Trump threatened, that if this ever got out, he'd sue the school.
Right. Yeah, he wants to sue a lot of people. He's trying to hide a lot of stuff. It's because his whole life has been fraudulent. And, it's interesting. We had Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump on the stand, and there was one moderator that made an interesting observation. When he listened to those two answer questions, he said it's as if these people have never lived in a time in their life where law applied to them. The idea of breaking the law, it was just part of their life. They don't understand what it's like to be real people like you and I that have to comply with laws. They have always gotten sway in everything they've done, and now they're sitting in this courtroom and they don't know what the fuck is going on.
No, that's so true. George, what's his name? Chuckna. I'm screwing the name up.
Who are you talking about?
Judge Tanya Chuckna.
Chutkin. Tanya Chutkin.
She's a no-nonsense judge. I like her.
I do too, but she needs to step it up. And with these gag orders and such, she needs to hold him accountable, because Donald Trump is getting away with far more than any other person would get away with it, mainly because he's a former president. But you can't let him keep talking the way he's talking, because it's becoming dangerous.
Now, Eileen Cannon, she's the one that you got to worry about.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that are worried about her because they think she might delay this thing. What are your thoughts on how that's going to play out? Jack Smith, Aileen Cannon down in Florida, is she going to try to delay it till after the election? And if she does it fucking matter? It doesn't really matter.
I think what Jack Smith should do is, because I think he might have a conflict of interest, because Trump gave Cannon her position. Isn't that a conflict of interest? And
Well,
if she refuses to excuse herself, can't the appeal court step in and say,
well,
wait a minute, you're
well,
fucking up things already.
well, and that's the thing is she should have recused herself given the circumstances, but she didn't because she wants to do Donald Trump's bidding. But if you're thinking about the situation down there, you got Jack Smith against Aileen Cannon. Um, that's not even a fair fight because Aileen Cannon is not a good judge. She's not very smart, and Jack Smith is a beast. Now, the fact that he hasn't done anything yet, that's got people a little nervous about it. But I think Jack Smith has pretty much set a trap. And I think ultimately he's going to sometime soon appeal to the 11th Circuit and also try to get her kicked out. There's plenty of reasons to do it because she fails constantly. She clearly doesn't know what she's doing over and above her bias toward Donald Trump. I don't think Aileen Cannon will be there for very long, very much longer. And I think Jack Smith knows exactly what he's doing in this situation. It just isn't happening as fast as a lot of people would like.
Well, maybe.
No, I just said it, so it's
I'm
real.
not. I'm not. I'm not disputing that fact. I'm sure. I know Justice knows what he's doing. I mean, Letitia James I like too. She's pretty hard nosed.
Yeah, she is. I wouldn't mess with her.
Um,
Well, how do you think
you
this is all
know,
going to shake out? What's the end game? What's going to happen to Donald Trump in your mind when this is all said and done? How's this going to end up?
I think the problem is I don't think they'll put him in jail, because the fact is the truth of the matter is they put him in jail with his fan base, they'll make him into a martyr, and that could be worse.
I don't even care if they make him a martyr. They just got to take him out of the game, out of the narrative, because he's dangerous when he's in it. If he goes to jail, and I don't know how they keep him out of jail, given how egregious the crimes he's committed and how prolific he's been about committing them. I can't think of any human, let alone a former president, that's committed as many crimes that were so horrific against our country. I don't think they have a choice but to put him in jail. It's just they're going to have to be creative about it because it's a weird situation.
I mean, I think what they'll end up probably doing is to be honest, that's a tough call. I mean, if the Supreme Court holds up, they'll end up disqualifying him under the 14th Amendment.
Well, let's talk about that. This 14th Amendment. People keep asking me about it. It's going on in Colorado. It's going on here in Minnesota. And people, are you excited about it? Do you think it's going to work? It's quite a process to get this done, and it's a little speculative. I think there's many other things that are going to take Donald Trump down with his criminal trials coming up. I'd love to see the 14th Amendment issue work. I'm just not sure it's going to work, or if it does work, if it works quick enough. That's my only concern about that.
It's never been challenged before.
Right. Exactly.
So the thing is, and I said this for a long time, if he gets a second term, it's not going to be a term in the sense that it'll be a normal presidency.
Right.
It'll be a term of revenge.
Right. Right.
It'll be Trump takes revenge on all those who did him wrong. Republicans, Democrats, you know,
Well, he's a vengeful
people who,
motherfucker.
exactly, you know. So there's only two possible outcomes. You either, and I hate to say this on a podcast, but he either dies from all the cheeseburgers that he's eating, or you put him in jail.
Yeah. Well, you can say anything on my podcast because it's my fucking show and we do whatever the fuck we want. That's just the way it goes. So don't feel like you're stilted here. You can say whatever the fuck you want. And that's why you heard me talking about getting Trumplefucks on the podcast. If I debate those guys in TikTok, then they go whining to TikTok, and then TikTok takes it down, and then I gotta peel it, and it's a bunch of shit. But if they come to the podcast, there is no restrictions. They can't take me down. I'm happy to let them talk, but it's a fair fight then. They can't run away and cry when they get their ass kicked. And trust me, they'll get their ass kicked and do anything about it. That's why I try to get them here. And when I first got your email and you said you were Republican, I go, hot damn, we got a hot one here. But then you told me, but I don't like Donald Trump. I go, fuck. Okay. Well, I talk to everybody, so it doesn't matter if you love Trump or hate Trump. I was just hoping someone took the bait, and of course, nobody did.
I'm sorry to disappoint you.
Well, no, you don't disappoint me. I mean, I have listeners on all the time, and all of them are of a like mind. I'm happy to talk about them. Debating with the Trumplefuck is futile because they can't comprehend truth, facts, or rule of law. I can't change their mind. To be honest, if I get a Trumplefuck on this show, the only thing I can hope to accomplish is to embarrass the shit out of them. And there's no valor in that. It's just I need to get it off my chest sometimes, and unfortunately, they
I
they
was
they find
talking to Trump. Oh, sorry. So I'm
no
sorry.
no no go ahead, go ahead. I talk a lot.
I see talking to Trump supporters like talking to a brick wall.
Absolutely, it's absolutely like that. That's been my experience. Um, they either ignore the facts or they don't have all the facts, and it's impossible to argue with somebody who just doesn't know anything. They just spew bullshit and they believe it to be true, and they don't have any facts to support it, but it doesn't matter to them. They're right. And you just can't have a debate with these people. They're just too fucking lame. You can't talk to them.
No, you can't. Um, no, it's really sad what it's become.
Yeah, are you surprised that we've fallen to this level in this country? I mean, when I was growing up, when I was born, it was Eisenhower, then Kennedy, then Johnson, then Nixon, then Gerald Ford, and so on. Um, there was a certain amount of, you would look up to politicians whether they deserved it or not. Right now, it's so vastly different than what it was back then. I mean, these people have dropped to such a level that you wouldn't invite them over to your house for a dinner party, let alone elect them to represent you in fucking DC.
Mm. You know, I'm not big on Democrats per se,
Okay.
but if if I could go back in time and meet anyone,
Yeah.
uh, politician that is. It'd be FDR.
Yeah. And you know what they said about FDR when he did the New Deal and all this stuff? He's a goddamn socialist. They did the same thing to him as they're doing to Joe Biden. Let me ask you this, and I'm not trying to start something here because I'm not a Democrat. What is it you don't like about Democrats?
It's not that I don't like them. It's just that my whole family's a Democrat.
Right.
I'm the only Republican
Okay.
in my family.
Okay.
And
What don't you like?
it's
I'm not trying to set you up here. I'm just curious. I have things I
not,
don't like about the Democrats too.
it's just that, to be honest with you, they don't think like Republicans. I think they make great politicians if they could think like Republicans.
Well, how does a Republican think? What is it about a Republican that you like?
They're not willing. They're willing to get their hands dirty and play dirty.
Oh,
Uh,
so what I'll just try to encapsulate this. So what you're saying is Democrats are pussies. Is that what
yeah,
you're saying? Okay, there you go. There you go. I don't disagree with you there. That's that's true, and that's part of the reason why I do the rational boomer thing, because if you listen to me, I sound like a Republican, but what my content is more liberal and Democrat. It's what I would hope the Democrats would do. You're right; they need to wade into this and fight a little bit more. But how about their policies? Do you have any issue with the policies of a Democrat? If we even know what those policies are?
no, I have no issues at all.
Okay.
I'm all for. Personally, I think Biden is a little too old for the job. I think Trump is too.
Yeah. No, I think Biden is too old. But how do you think? How do you feel about how he's done?
I think he's done a phenomenal job.
Great, great. Yeah, I agree. I agree. The age thing is a big issue, and I'm glad you said that because we got a lot of Democrats listening. And I was going to give out your home phone, but now you're safe. But no, no, Biden's done well, and I worry about it because when you're 82 years old, I mean, you can keel over and die in a moment, and it won't surprise anybody because you're old. And so, and that could be a problem for the country. So you have to consider that as much as people don't want to. You do have to consider the age.
Yeah, but I think Donald Trump's too damn old too.
I think Donald,
I don't think I don't think Trump's all mentally there anymore either.
no, I think he's losing it, and I think the pressure's getting to him, and I think it's going to get worse before it will never get better. It's going to get worse. We have to resign ourselves, I think, to the fact that Joe Biden will be the president in 2024, save for any tragedy. But after that, you talked about having a leader. You talked about maybe having somebody younger because we talked about Biden being too old. Is there anybody that you see that you think would be a good president, say in 2028?
Me?
Well, I'd have to vet you a little bit more than I have for the show, but no, seriously, is there somebody, a politician that you know of right now that would be a better president or a good president?
To be honest, no. I think
Nobody?
if what's her name, Kamala Harris,
Yeah, Kamala Harris. How do you feel about her?
um, she needs to get out of Biden's shadow a little bit and do a little bit more.
Yeah.
Maybe I have no woman. I have no issues with a woman being president as long as she could be, as long as she could prove that she could do the job. The issue I have with the woman being president is we do a lot of business with third world countries,
Yeah.
and they don't see women in powerful positions.
Well, in some places you do. Some places you have women in power, but I understand what you're saying. Some cultures consider women second class citizens, as fucking crazy as that is. And I don't think that's going to be an issue. Do you really think that if Hillary Clinton had been president and not Donald Trump, whether you like Hillary Clinton or not, she would have been a better president, way better president than
Oh
Donald Trump?
hell yes, she would have been a better president.
But
Um,
do you think if she walked into some other leader's palace or whatever, you don't think she would have kicked ass and taken some names? I mean, I think Hillary's one of those types of women that's not going to fuck around whether you're a man or a woman or whatever. I think she would have been strong enough to handle any
oh
situation.
hell yeah, she reminds me of the Chancellor of Germany. What's her name?
Merkel, Andrea
Yeah.
Merkel. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Andrea is not somebody to play with either. I mean, she just by even though she's a woman, she's as tough as any man in this world stage. And I think Hillary would have done the same thing. What do you think about that in 2028, having a woman as president? Do you think that's viable?
Um, I think it's not um, impossible. I think it's improbable, but it's not impossible.
I think the time has come. I mean, if I was to pick a Democrat to be president in 2028, I think my choice would be Hakeem Jeffries because he's very smart and he doesn't fuck around. He's kind of like Obama in the sense he's kind of above it all, above reproach, but he'll smack you in the mouth too at the same time, and that's something Obama would not have done.
Like I said, if it was up to me, if I was running, I know I would pick a Democrat as my VP, as my running mate. But that's just me. That's just because, and I would also clean house from top to bottom.
But the problem with that is if you're a Republican and you have a Democrat who's a VP, all those people that are feeding you money to keep you above water are going to pull that money. They don't want to be unified in that sense. Republicans are Republicans, Democrats are Democrats, and these people aren't willing to compromise at all. You know, if you wanted to get a Democrat vice president, that would be admirable, but I don't think it would work. I don't think you'd get the support you need to get elected.
Not the way the Congress is right now, but
No.
not the way the Congress is right now. But if you got but I think it could be done.
Well, hopefully it can be done at some point. I think we've got a lot of digging out of this hole we're in. I mean, if Joe Biden wins in 2024, if the Democrats get the majority in the House and the Senate, we're in good shape to start getting things done. But there's been a lot of things destroyed. It's going to take some time to dig out from where the Republicans put us in our current stage. I mean, I think a lot of people thought the minute Joe Biden became president that Donald Trump would be arrested and put in jail. And unfortunately, that's not how things go. And it's the same with trying to rectify the problems we have in this country, whether it be Supreme Court or whatever. It's going to take some time to do that, and we have to be patient.
Yeah, it's going to take some time. The Congress needs to be reformed. The Supreme Court needs to be reformed. Uh, things need to be cleaned up and reformed.
You think that can be done? Do you think, I mean, do you think we have the wherewithal to actually accomplish that? I don't know. Not in quick
It,
fashion.
it can be. It's going to take baby steps, little by little. Um, it's not going to happen overnight.
No, it's definitely not.
It's going to take baby steps, like what about Bob?
Yeah, yeah.
But it can be done. It's just going to take time.
Well, let's hope we get to the point where we can explore that possibility, and let's hope that the people in charge are willing to do that. That's what's going to be important. We're going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. Dan, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's a pleasure to have
All
you
right.
on, and I love getting
And
insights from different folks. And I'm glad that we caught you in a live, and you took a flyer and jumped on the show, and it's not knowing what you were walking into.
anytime you want me on, you're welcome to have me back. I'll be glad to come and talk with you.
Absolutely, absolutely, and like I tell folks, um, don't wait for an invitation. Just send me an email and say, Mike, I want to come on. I've got a couple of other people that want to come on. Just tell me send me an email, send it to rationalboomer@gmail.com. Say, I want to come on, and then we'll set it up from there because it's tough coordinating times and all that sort of thing. When you have time, I'm doing a show every night, so it's not a problem. Whenever you'd like to come on, just
Well,
let me know.
I'm pretty almost at midnight. All I have is school right now. So,
There you go. But tend to the school and get that done, and move on to the next goal after that. Well, again, Dan, I appreciate it immensely. Thank you very much for coming on the show. For the folks listening, I just want to say thank you for taking the time to listen. Um, uh, I hope you have a great day today, and of course, we will be back tomorrow.